All about providing leaders and managers with meaningful insights on how to optimize business results by aligning their people strategy to their business strategy. Our goal is to support you as you rise to the challenges of complex decision-making centered around attracting and retaining top talent. Hello, and welcome to the Strategic Alignment Podcast. This program is all about providing leaders and managers with meaningful insights on how to optimize business results by aligning their people strategy to their business strategy. Our goal is to support you as you rise to the challenges of complex decision-making centered around attracting and retaining top talent.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Strategic Alignment Podcast. I'm super excited to be in the building with you today, guys. I'm telling you, my guest today is the son of one of my favorite person, the legend himself, Chris Fielder. I'm not interviewing Chris Fielder today, but I have to make mention of him. When you hear his voice, if you know anything about the legend from the legendary institution up north, Pine Forge Academy, we always rep on the edge of the Manatee there. You're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. But today we have in studio one who's a friend, one who's deep. And if you're a follower on Instagram, you hear the word every day, something that keeps pouring into your life. And today we're talking about a powerful topic, and we talk about the power of influence. And today I have none other than Mr. Kelan Fielder himself with me today. And Mr. Kelan is a motivational speaker. And I just want to invite him in. And Kelan, in an elevator pitch style, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're about, as we dive into the substance today.
Hey man, first I want to say it's an honor to be here. Appreciate the kind words about my father. I love him too, you know, and great guy, great man, great father. And I'm just happy to be here. So I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a Christian man, and I pastored for 10 years. And since then, I've ventured off into a new space. And in that new space, I motivate, I inspire, and I solve problems. So, you know, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a simple guy. I would love to say I'm a hooper, but I'm a hat man, you know, so I can't really claim that anymore. But just happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah, it's a plum pleasure, man. And guys, don't let him play with you guys. He could do a lot of other things. He could blow and he could hoop. Don't watch it. Don't look at it. But you know, as we talk about influence, as we talk about leadership, you know, my first question to you, Kelan, as an inspirational, motivational person who's in that space of giving people hope, whether they're leaders. And when we talk about leaders here, we talk about leading up, leading down, leading across, and leading yourself. When you think about leadership, what is leadership? As you think about your space as an inspirational, motivational person, what is leadership?
I mean, in the simplest form, I believe it's the ability to move people. You know, you know who the leaders are if they have someone following them. If nobody's following you, then you are not a leader. And you know, at the heart of things, you know, I believe that leaders have influence. People want to follow you because they can trust you, they respect you, and like I said, if you don't have that trust and respect, then no one will be following you, and that's the simplest way I can define what leadership is to me.
Wow, that's powerful. So most time people talk about leadership, they think that it's just a position thing. But you made a deep point here. If you think you're a leader, if you're leading in a space and there's nobody following you, you mean that there's something that you're not doing to allow people to be people that are attracted to what you're doing or where you're heading. So when it comes down to influence, and if you could break that down a little bit for us, how important is influence, and to pay attention to the kind of influence that you're having when you're going about doing what you're doing in whatever space you're operating in?
Influence is everything. You know, it's everything in leadership, because, you know, you'll have some people who will follow you because you have the position. But when it comes to long-term leadership, when it comes to really deep leadership, when it comes to moving people and really accomplishing the goals that you set out to go, to accomplish. Without that influence, without the people's trust, without, their respect, they're really not going to come with you on the journey. You're going to hit hard times at times. You're going to hit some obstacles. And what you really want are people who are available to you, who trust you, who will have your back when things go wrong. And you'll only have that if you have influence over them. And you get influence, by being vulnerable, by letting them into your space, by getting to know them, by showing them that you trust them and allowing them to gain that trust in you. And so influence is everything, man. But without it, you're really like a ship without a sail. You're really not going to go anywhere.
So why is it, I'm going to jump off, we always have a script when we're doing this stuff, but when you hear good things, you got to talk about it. Why is it that so many leaders are fearful of being vulnerable, thinking that being vulnerable take away from the influence that they may have on their team?
I think because, the old paradigm of leadership is to lead with power. And a lot of times we don't understand that our real power, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes our real power is in our weakness. When you allow people to come into, your life, and when you allow them to see that you don't have it all together, then that builds a different level of trust that, power will not give you. When you lead from a power position, sometimes people will admire you, they may idolize you, but they won't let you inside. But when you're vulnerable, people can, they can understand that a little bit more, because all of us have weaknesses. All of us can understand what it's like to, struggle with things, to have weaknesses, to have vulnerabilities. And when you leave from a place of vulnerability, you're able to get a connection with people that you may not be able to get if you lead with an iron fist. And that's one thing that I tried to do when I was pastoring. Get to know people, get to know their names, kiss babies, go to their house, eat with them, and show them that you're a real person, and that builds trust. You can't do anything without trust, Jamie. You know it. When you're leading people, they need to know that they can trust you, that you'll be in the trenches with them, and without that, you're not going to go anywhere.
Now that's super powerful. And you said something here that resonates with me, that when we let people in, when they see our failures, when they recognize that we're real people, we end up getting discretionary value from them. And you wonder, why is it that so many people, and see people responding from Facebook and giving likes and highs, is that one thing that happens is that sometimes people really want to go where we're going, but they don't know if it's a real person that's leading them. So the vulnerability allows them to recognize that I may be in a higher position. I may be the one at the desk making the greater check. But what happened is that I have similar challenges to the challenge that you are having as a regular person. And when people can associate with that based on what you're saying, they're willing to give us a discretionary value and go the extra mile with us. And that jumps into my next question, Kelan, is that, why is it that some leaders find it so difficult then to inspire those who they're working with? Is it because they're selfish in terms of sharing the back of their t-shirt, or because they want to be so big they end up looking smaller than their vision of where they want to take their team?
It's to me, I think it's probably insecurity. When you're really a leader, you don't have to worry about, somebody taking your position, because your followers give you your power. The position really doesn't do anything. Both you and I have been in situations where someone was in a position, but we knew they really didn't have any power. You know what I'm saying? They had the position, but they didn't have the power. And, when people are insecure about their power, when they're insecure about, those people who are following them, then I think that's where we have that dynamic where they try to bully people. They're worried about who's coming behind them, and with real leaders, with people who know what they're doing, with people who really have the trust of those that want to follow them, they don't have to worry about those things, so you're always going to have your faithful followers. And that's where real leadership distinguishes itself, because you don't need to be insecure about, who's coming behind you and what people are saying about you. you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, and you know who has your back. So I just think it's insecurity.
So what I'm hearing then, Kelan, and I'm happy that you touched that, is that many leaders, because, you know, normally when I head into a space, sometimes leaders are saying to me, Jamie, I'm finding it very difficult to inspire these people. I'm finding it difficult to move these people. I'm finding it difficult for them to capture the vision. I'm finding it difficult to do this, to do that. What I'm hearing you to say, that sometimes the challenge is really with the leader because of the level of insecurity. So I'm hearing then that if you really want to lead people and have real followers who are authentic, and you're going to have a few bad eggs ever so often, you need to display some level of security in terms of who you are. And who you are is your full self, and also allowing people to see your full self and recognize that you're not perfect. You're not the Iron Man. But you still find a lot of leaders who still hold back. And as you rightfully say, that they may be maintaining a position, but the minute that their team get an opportunity to remove their legs from them, guess what? It's gone.
Right.
It's gone, you know? And that is the frightening thing that I find with many leaders in terms of how they move on from that level. So my question to you, Kelan, because many times a lot of young leaders or emerging leaders, they walk up in conversations, or when I'm in conference sessions, they're like, yo, how do I become that influential person? How do I become that person who people listen to? What are some of the, I call it this way, what are some of the Sesame Street style steps that I can take to take me there? What are some of those simple steps? And I don't know if you have any in your toolbox that you could share with those who are watching at this point.
I think the first thing you need to do, or at least the first thing I had to do when I was pastoring, when I was leading large groups of people, first thing, you got to get to know them. You need to understand what makes them move, what makes them tick. It's not always about, being competent and being intelligent and knowing what you're doing. Sometimes it's knowing how to move the people, that you want to move. And if you're doing things, whether they're good or bad, that don't speak to those people, they're just not going to move. So you really have to, and that's where vulnerability comes in. If you're not vulnerable, you'll never get to know people.
Wow. So Kelan, I want you to break this down a little bit, because moving people, getting them to move is super important, because as you're saying, many times we have people that we're leading, and no matter what, we just can't give them the right beat to get their legs moving. It's almost like they're doing the electric slide, but they're hearing a Teddy Pendergrass in their ear. So it's a totally different beat. How do you get them on that beat and moving them to where they need to go? And then not just moving them in a fling-like way, but moving them in a long-term way whereby they're committed to the direction which you're taking them.
At the end of the day, people move when they want to move. So you need to figure out what what will make them move, and give it to them in a way that will make them want to do it. Culture, it is one of the hardest things to change. But when you understand it, and when you understand the people who are in that culture, you can give them the things that they need that will speak to them, so that they'll do what you're hoping that they will do. And like I said, people only move when they want to move. So you've got to give them what they need, and give them, I guess, what you want them to have in a way where they can digest it, so that they're doing it on their own. Because you're not going to force people to move. If they want to be there, they're going to be there, and nothing is going to get them to move apart from them wanting to do it. So your job as a motivator, as an inspirer, as the leader, is to figure out what they need. Figure out their language. Figure out how what will make them respond to the information and the movements that you're trying to instill in them. So if you can do it in a way where they will understand it and where they can appreciate it, then that's what will get them to move. A lot of times what we do is we want people to take it the way we're giving it to them. And Jamie, you're married just like I am, and sometimes your wife just ain't feeling it. So you got to figure out a way. Listen, I know you can sing a little bit. Sing to her. Set the mood. Do what you need to do to get her to be in a position, a space where she's willing to go along with you. So that's the same thing leaders have to do. We can't force anybody to do anything. So we have to give it to them in a way where they can receive it. And that's the hard work of leadership.
So what I'm getting is that leadership is influence, as you made mention, but in influencing, you're not just influencing based on what you think they need, but you're influencing based on what you know that they need by connecting with them and being vulnerable, because you can't move people who are not willing to move. And if you connect like that with them, then they are willing to go wherever you're taking them, because they believe in what you're doing and they recognize that you're connecting with them. So I'm hearing that connecting with people allows you to inspire them, to motivate them, and they will even go further than where you want to take them in the long run doing that. But Kelan, my next question is this, because sometimes leaders go through a hard time. They make mistakes, they're broken. Sometimes as a leader, you may even not be fully adequate for what you're doing in that given space. So what do you say to leaders like that who are struggling in that space? They are not 100% to the job, they have certain gaps, but they're still in a position where they need to influence. How do they go about doing that and maintaining their credibility at the same time?
First thing I would say is get help. If you're the one who needs, the help, then you need to get the help. I think it's 2022, man. Asking for help is no longer taboo like it used to be. And I think that as leaders, we need to understand that sometimes we need to follow as well. And maybe you need to get a mentor. Maybe you need to take some time away so that you can focus on yourself, so that you can give your best to those who you are leading. We hear it every time we're on a plane. If something goes wrong, they tell you to put your mask on first, and then help other people, because you're really not going to be in a space where you can do your best if you're not at your best.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest that, get help, find a mentor, find someone who can, hold you up while you're trying to hold everybody else up, because, in the long run, that's not sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even think we need to have a conversation about pushing through in every situation. Sometimes you do have to push through, but you don't always have to push through. Sometimes you can take time off, which is a principle. All of us need rest,
Mm-hmm.
which is a principle we should be teaching teaching those who follow us. Everybody needs rest. Everybody needs space. Everybody needs time to recoup. And you should set the tone. You should set the example that, listen, I'm not at my best right now. I need to take time away to regroup. And when I come back, I'll be better. But there's no reason for us to even, in 2022 have conversations about, just bulldozing our way through, because we see what happens when people do that. They hit burnout, they hit the wall, and sometimes they're not able to recover. So I would say just get help, find somebody who can hold you up and come back better when you're ready.
Wow. And sometimes you're right. Sometimes we force the issue because we want to be dominating to the point whereby instead of influencing others and pulling others, we end up influencing them to leave us.
Right.
And we're wrapping it up at this point. But another question that I have to throw on you, Kelan, is what is, when I look at leaders or look at people in given spaces, some folks, based on how they influence others, that influence forces others to want to influence them to a higher level. So for example, you take, for example, a basketball team, you have all talented players, but just the influence that certain players take on as they operate, you find that the coaches feel compelled to invest more in those players. You see a manager on a team, and because of how that person is influencing the team, others feel the need to also influence them to a next level. What do you think are some of you talk about the vulnerability, you talk about trusting others, you talk about sharing. Is there anything else that people of that sort, of that caliber do differently that pulls others in to want to give them a more expanded latitude to experience their best self?
I think that for a leader, you need to be the hardest working person in the room. Bottom line, there's no substitute for hard work. And some people only respect your work ethic. For some people, they don't care, about you being vulnerable. They don't care about how nice you are. They don't care about, some of the intangibles. They want to see that you're worthy of being the leader. And when they see that you're worthy of having that position, of having that title, then they'll follow you. They'll ride, they'll raise their game, if you will. Some people just respect hard work. And I think that as the leader, you need to set the tone. You need to set the example. One of our favorite players, Kobe, come on, I got to throw him in there, Jamie. He was the first in the gym.
You got to throw him in.
Come on, he was the first in the gym. He was the last in the gym. And that was, that was his thing. Nobody was going to outwork Kobe. And regardless of if you liked him or not, you knew that you could respect him because he was going to work harder than everybody. Yep. And I think, for leaders, we've got to have a work ethic that says, listen, it doesn't matter what y'all are doing. This is where we're going. And that's what's going to happen. I'm going to set the tone. I'm going to set the example, and I'm going to be the first to go. And whoever's with me can come with me. And I think, there's no substitute for that. So you set the tone by your hard work.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And we're wrapping it up now, but thank you guys very much for joining us for another strategic alignment podcast with Kelan Fielder, motivational speaker. But Kelan, on your podcast on Instagram, you always give people tips in terms of how to get back to their best self and how to deal with challenges. I know in the recently published book, The Face of Leadership, guys, please go out there and grab yourself a copy of The Face of Leadership. The 8 pillars, you just have to get a copy of that joker right there. But you talk about being able to bounce back. And in one of the chapters, we talk about failure and the bounce back theory. What do you have to share with anybody who's watching at this point, who might have gone through a lot of things and they're still looking to influence based on who they are or what their dreams are? What nugget would you like to leave with them today as we look to wrap this up?
One of the influencers that I follow, Inky Johnson, he said, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. And one thing that we have to understand about, being successful is that you don't just fall into success. A lot of times you fall down, and it's what you do as a response that makes you successful. All of us have faults. None of us is perfect. Most of us, barely any of us get it right on the first time. So we have to understand that part of being successful is falling down. And we need to get comfortable with that. It's just part of the game. And when it comes to bouncing back, everybody has a different story. Some people bounce back because, they have a really strong mindset. They're not going to allow failure to get them down. They know how to bounce back from setbacks. Other people, and I'll put myself in this category, we just didn't have a parachute. We didn't have a choice, and some of us bounce back because we don't want to be victims. It's one thing to be a victim of your circumstance. It's another thing to adopt the victim's mentality. And for me, I didn't want to adopt the victim's mentality and say, this is the course of my life because of circumstance. I wanted to take control and say that, yeah, this happened, but there are no excuses. I want to be this in my life. And I had to figure it out, so some of us just really don't have a choice. At the end of the day, you don't get any extra credit for how you bounce back. My word to you is just bounce back. Make it happen. You can do it. There are no obstacles that you can't overcome. And we believe in you. So bounce back, come back, and you're going to be all right.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much, Kelan, for joining us for another Strategic Alignment podcast. Where we'd say, guess what? We believe that your best self is in your next step in investing in who you are. Kelan, before we jump off, where can they find you? Persons who want to connect with you, want to secure your services, and just to have you at their reach in terms of giving them what you give to the world on a daily basis on your inspirational podcast and Instagram.
You can follow me on Facebook at Kelan Fielder. You can find me on Instagram at Kelan3010. You can find me on TikTok at Kelan Fielder. I'll be on YouTube next week. Same name, Kelan Fielder. And you can email me at Kelan30@gmail.com or Kelan and Associates at gmail.com. That's where you can find me. I'm all over the place.
Wow, I love it. I love it. So guess what? Kelan Fielder, you see the name. You can find him on Instagram. You name the different places. Next week on YouTube, on Facebook. Please follow a lot of nuggets, always leaving powerful stuff. Kelan, it has been a plum pleasure having you in this space. And make sure to speak to the legend himself, Mr. Chris Fielder, that nothing but love, Godfather himself. And it's a plum pleasure having you, Kelan. And guess what, guys? You'll be seeing him again. And please, if you forget, grab yourself of the copy of the book, The Face of Leadership. The reviews are going well thus far. We want you to have this a part of your arsenal as you experience your best self. The Face of Leadership, could get it on Amazon. Kelan, it's nothing but love. And I know the viewers enjoy the treats and the nuggets that you left with us today. Have a pleasant one. Thank you guys again for joining us for another Strategic Alignment podcast.
Went well? Can you hear me?
Thank you for listening to the Strategic Alignment Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast by visiting our website at www.pottingerandassociatesconsulting.com.